these things only happen to other people, don't they, right? We report on these awful things. I was working from home in Newcastle yesterday. I work in Sydney, and 3 o'clock I got a call from my dad, and he was quite upset, saying that there was a fire and it was close and they were a bit worried about it. But, you know, it's Australia. We always have fires, and there were lots of fires up there that have been just kind of smouldering away for a few days, I guess. And he said, we're going to shelter in the shed. They have a large steel shed at the back of their home. And I said, could you get across to the school, the local public school? Dad doesn't walk very easily these days. And he just said, look, no, we'll be in the shed. It's steel. We'll be fine. And I was a little bit concerned about that, but, you know, you don't argue with my dad, really. And so I kept an eye on the New South Wales Rural Fire Service Twitter account and their amazing Fires Near Me app, and it just looked to be getting worse. And at 4 o'clock, the RFS sent out a tweet with another emergency declaration for the area that my dad was in. And I tweeted them back and I said, what is the best sheltering place or sheltering spot in Rappville? And they said that the firefighters and some of the residents were across the road at the school. And I tried to call my dad, but I couldn't get through to him or his partner, Cass. And so I sent them an SMS just in case, because it's a terrible mobile phone coverage spot anyway. I sent them an SMS just in case a text would get through, and still didn't hear back. And so I replied to the RFS on Twitter and just said, my dad is in his shed in his backyard. And they immediately messaged me and asked for my father's address, and they sent a truck over there to get Dad and Cass out of the shed. And I spoke to my father, I'm not sure what time it was, Michael, maybe 5 o'clock or something, and my dad, he messaged me and he said, all gone. And I spoke to him shortly after, and he was incredibly distressed, and he said, the house is gone, everything is gone, but the shed's still there. And it was maybe an hour or two after that that I got a message from Rob Rogers, the Deputy Commissioner of the Rural Fire Service, and he said that the shed had also gone. And I messaged Rob just to clarify the steps, you know, of what had happened, that his people, the RFS volunteers, had gone over with a truck to get my dad and Cass from the shed, and they did. And they saved my dad's life and Cassie's life by getting them out of the shed.
And well done to you, Carol, for your quick thoughts in utilising Twitter, an example of Twitter doing some good here in preventing what could have been an even greater tragedy.
Look, I still have faith in Twitter as a medium, and certainly as a news and information gatherer. You know, you and I use this tool every day. And yes, it can be noisy, it can be awful, and it can be cruel. But at its best, it is still a stunning instant messaging service. And I've been asked, you know, well, why didn't you call 000? With what phone exactly would I have done that when the phones were out, their phones weren't working? You know, thank God for this curious little medium that managed to enable me to ask for help for my dad.
How is your dad and Cass this morning?
I've spoken to my dad very briefly this morning. He's much better than he was last night, obviously. And he, I think, was delivered to the local publican's home in Casino. At least that's where he finds himself this morning. Today, they start the job of trying to replace things like bank cards and medicine scripts and, you know, all of those bits and pieces that, you know, you take for granted, just the ephemera of your day-to-day life. But yeah, everything in the house has gone, everything in the shed has gone. But you know what, it's not just my dad. Rappville is a tiny little village of maybe 140 people on a big day, and I haven't seen any photos or footage of the village yet, but I hear that they've lost something like 20 homes and structures, possibly 30, listening to your news earlier. I'm not sure if that also crosses the Tenterfield or the Lockyer Valley. I think it's the Lockyer Valley fire is the other one. But if that's 20 homes lost in Rappville, that's a large portion of the population of one small village that is now homeless. And I'm in a really fortunate position where I can reach out to a social media network and ask for help. And I feel guilty about doing that, Michael. I feel like I should be able to do this myself, to help my dad myself, but I can't. And people have helped me, but now we have to help this village, and this will be replicated in other villages and towns across Australia this summer. A
big clean-up and recovery process, and all of us can do all we can to help people like your dad, John, who's a pensioner. It is going to be extremely difficult for he and Cass to essentially start from scratch, Carol.
They are starting from scratch. As my dad said yesterday, he said even my walking stick is in the house. And, you know, my dad's an incredibly pragmatic and funny man. He's a beautiful man, and there were a couple of things yesterday that he said to me in his distress, and his distress was and is immense, that are just classic of my father. And he said to me, you know what, we're so lucky, we've still got the clothes that we're standing up in. And he said, the guy next to me, he's here in shorts and thongs. That's all that guy's got. Dad also wryly commented that at least now he wouldn't have to replace his front fence.
One dubious silver lining. Hey, and what would you like to say to Rob Rogers, who was on the show only half an hour ago, and all of those hard-working firefighters, including those volunteers who saved the lives of your dad and his partner?
You know what? You and I have worked with the Royal Fire Service and all of our emergency services for many years. I was broadcasting here in Newcastle through the Bashabolka disaster in 2007 when 10 people died. I have broadcast as a relief broadcaster in other parts of the state when ABC teams need a break themselves and to go and take care of their own homes and properties. To Rob Rogers, who has put me through years and years and years of bushfire training to try and make sure that when you and I, Michael, report on bushfires, and all of the media who are out there, they try and keep us alive as well as the people who are residents in these locations. And the people who were out there last night, and they're still out there today, and they will be out there again tonight and tomorrow and all summer and for months. They do it for free. They're volunteers, and how can you ever repay that?
Oh, you can't. Hey, listen, it's clearly a challenging time for you, Carol. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and telling us your story. And please pass on our thoughts to John and Cass as well.
I will, Michael. Thank you. Now we just have to figure out how to lift the whole village. But thank you.